This time on Watchers of Tomorrow, they're Pakleds. They listen to podcast.
Hello, welcome to Watchers of Tomorrow, the sci-fi review and critique show that is smart and go fast.
Let us go.
My name is Gep, and I'm joined as always by my friend and co-host Dr. Isix.
Hi.
And this week we have the one episode that Lower Decks misunderstood and turned into an entire season arc.
Yeah, I guess the very top-level service interpretation of what's going on here, which, they kind of took and ran with without really delving at all into what's actually going on. But, that happens sometimes.
Yeah, there's some stuff that contradicts, but, that's par for the course.
Yeah. I guess there's maybe some thoughts I can have on that later, but we haven't even gotten to the episode yet. So
I'm going to do my best. It's not going to work, but I'm going to do my best to just stick to the text of this episode and ignore what happens, 20 years from now in Lower Decks.
Yes.
Actually, almost 30 years now, apparently.
We live in the future, Gepwin. It's weird.
We call it the present, but,
So we have handheld communicators that we could use to scan things and communicate with people in the far reaches of the universe and stuff like that.
Mm-hmm. All right, I'm sorry. My friend, this is an aside, but my friend showed me a write-up he'd found that was one of the original mini reviews that they did for new TV shows to say, Star Trek is starting on this channel. Here's our little mini review write-up so you can understand what it is before you watch it.
Yes. And
one of the things that they mentioned specifically was that they have walkie-talkies. Which everyone and every tech bro idiot and their brother right now is well, Star Trek inspired the cell phone. Look at the way that we innovate technology. They're walkie-talkies. They're space walkie-talkies. They had walkie-talkies.
Yes.
They're just radio. It's just a radio.
Yeah, it's just a fancy way to use it,
So you put a little flippy-do on your space radio, and that's what it was. It wasn't a cell phone. They weren't creating cell phones. You all forgot that you played with walkie-talkies as a child.
And never mind that there's old pulp stuff from the 30s where there are folks running around with stuff that was outmatching even TNG sort of tech occasionally. So
yeah, you don't want a two-way wrist radio?
Exactly.
Or a two-way wrist?
So all this stuff was, bouncing around in the science fiction quarters, but I guess it popularized these ideas as a possibility. I guess, that when walkie-talkies were forgotten.
You may as well say that Rocky and Bullwinkle invented the Apple Watch because they had the wrist radios.
Rocky. Bullwinkle. Sorry. Having a flashbacks to a previous review. Anyway,
this
Dr.
episode
Scott
was written by Robert L. McCool. That's a cool name. I'm probably pronouncing it wrong.
McCullough?
McCullough. This ends in a GH. I'm not sure what to do with that, if I'm being honest.
McCullen? Maybe? Because,
There's no N in it.
So? But he wrote some stuff, including a lot of Falcon Crest and Zorro.
Yeah, did a lot. He previously worked on Icarus Factor, so we've seen some of his stuff. He's also done episodes of Bionic Woman, Galactica 1980, shows like Kung Fu, The Legend Continues, and Baywatch Nights will be coming up. I feel like the amount of time that we have heard of Baywatch Nights, we need to do a spin-off. At least watch some of this cursed series.
Yeah, it's what is this about, really? There are some channels that actually touch upon this in terms of YouTube stuff, and some of the stuff I've seen from that is this show just seems so bizarre.
We have a few guest stars again.
Yes.
We've got Lucia Naff is back as Selena Gomez. This is the last time she will ever be seen.
Until much later. Much later.
Well, the interesting thing, too, is right after we recorded the episode where we were talking about her and how she never shows up again, I saw something on Tumblr that was, did you know there is a 40-series-long book series that deals with Selena Gomez and her adventures in the engineering corps of Starfleet?
I did not. Neat. And it's not just like fanfic, right?
No, it's an actual published book series. You know, it's probably in the, like, legends category of continuity, but still.
Yeah, it's good. Close enough. Cool. Oh, she was also on Baywatch.
And we have Christopher Collins playing Pakled Commander
Captain
Grebdelog. I don't know if they ever say his name particularly, but
yeah, so the guy.
yeah, all of them have weird, impronounceable names, like Grebdelog. Anyway, he played the Klingon captain in Matter of Honor, and he's better known for voice acting. Notably, he was Cobra Commander in G.I. Joe. And,
I was a man.
Mr. Burns and Moe in the first season of The Simpsons before they changed all the voice cast.
Ah, yes. Also, he comes back for some DS9 later.
Yeah. Probably
Yes.
playing a Klingon, I'm guessing.
I think in one of them, he's playing a guard apparently in Blood Oath. And also, Durg is in The Passenger.
Durg. Everybody remembers Durg. Good old
Yes.
Durg.
Oh, it was also in the real Ghostbusters. Neat.
And then we've got Leslie Morris playing Regnod.
It's like almost like Reginald, but Reginord.
Yeah, Reginald.
Reginald. Yes,
He's been in a lot of other films. He's had like bit parts in films like Terminator and something that mistranslated on my spell checker, so I'm not sure what I was trying to write.
Megaville?
It's written as like Ringstone, so maybe something Rhinestone, maybe something in that line, but I'm sorry, my spell checker ate it.
Yeah, it was also on Falcon Crest for one episode. Yes, Rhinestone was what you're thinking of there.
Rhinestone, haha. I've never heard of it, so you know.
also-
Often my spell checker doesn't matter because I remember what the thing was anyway, and it can remind me. But I've never heard of Rhinestone as a movie, so
It's like a Rhinestone cowboy, but different.
Rhinestone sans cowboy.
Yeah, it was also Mike the Cop in Earth Girls Are Easy.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
That was such a stupid movie.
Yep.
I hated it. And finally, we've got Daniel Benzal as the surgeon. He's had the most fun role. He was the most fun role as G.W. Bowell in James Bond: A View to Kill. Who's a oil and mining guy who's killed by Christopher Walken. He's also been in The X-Files, NYPD Blue, and a few other little background things.
By dawn's early light. And more Falcon Crest. Oh gosh, it's all over the place suddenly.
What is this?
It's a daytime TV, soap opera sort of thing that was
Okay.
80s, early 90s, I think.
That makes sense. That's why everyone is in it.
Yes.
These soap operas need so much actor churn.
Yes. There's the regulars, and then there's the guest stars, and then there's the sort of couple season actors, and then there's the people who replace other actors because the other actor is in rehab or died or had their brain replaced in the an episode a few points earlier, and that sort of stuff.
Yeah, all that stuff.
Yes. Also, they were in a general hospital.
And that's all the guest stars. But one completely, utterly unrelated fact that I just thought was funny is when you try to search for Samaritan Snare to pull up a Wikipedia page that you can look at to make sure you're remembering stuff while you're recording, the search engine really likes to try to autocorrect that to Samaritan Snake God.
Well, the thing is, Gapwin, it's not Samaritan Snare, it's Samaritan Snare. So Sumerian's snake god, I think, is Google just kind of going with the flow there.
Auto-correcting.
So
if you try to search Samaritan Snare, you might get Sumerian snake god, which I thought was fun.
what have you learned about this Sumerian snake god? Is it cool?
The Mesopotamian deity of vegetation, the underworld, and war.
Cool.
Yeah, the deity of vegetation and war. Vegetable war.
Vegetable wars.
Nin-Gish-Zeta, apparently.
Nin-Gish-Zeta. Wait a moment. Have I run into that in D&D at some point?
Almost certainly. D&D loves to reuse ancient Sumerian shit.
Well, and kind of everybody else's. Anyway.
Yeah. Anyway, we have a story, such as it is. It's mostly just an excuse for them to write some weird jokes in here that we're going to have to deconstruct in a way that you aren't going to like later.
Yes. So, let's get started.
So, Wesley is hurt because he's about to leave to a nearby starbase to take his next level Starfleet Academy exams, which is necessary for him to continue getting Academy credit for being on the Enterprise. So that's about it for Wesley.
Yeah. So you can just continue to sit around here and be on the show. Okay.
Picard is arguing with Pulaski because she is ordering him to get medical attention at a starbase because he refuses to do whatever it is she wants him to do. This is unclear at this point.
Well, Captain, if I know we haven't introduced Ryza yet, but if it's one of those sorts of problems, there's like pills for that now.
And so Picard meets with Wesley and informs him that he's going to be going to the starbase with him. So now Wesley is apprehensive about the idea that he has to spend 6 hours alone in a shuttlecraft with Captain Picard.
So a little bit of an awkward road trip there. So you're going by warp, right?
Yeah. Still takes a while to get places by warp.
I'm not actually sure they do those.
Yeah, they might not. Maybe it's just too close. Maybe warp drive is like, this will take more than a day. 6 hours is like, this is like a road trip. Don't waste your engines.
Yeah. Preserve that antimatter.
So, this you have to go on a road trip with your surrogate father figure / distant commanding officer. What could go wrong?
Yeah, hopefully no wacky hijinks.
Yeah, this isn't the one where they have wacky hijinks. This is the one where they bond as men.
Yes. But
the other one's the one where they have wacky hijinks.
Yes. So I guess because we don't have wacky hijinks now, they have to have it later. Got it.
Yeah. So as soon as Picard and Wesley are gone, the ship detects a distress signal the instant they leave.
Yes, like they're not even like done clearing the shuttle bay, and it's like, oh, we got a distress signal. Oh, okay.
They'll take them far away from the captain, but there's nothing to be done. So Riker radios them to respond. They find an old sub-like ship. On board are the Pakleds, who are guys with small bushy eyebrows and a simplistic way of speaking. Their ship's broken. They need to make it go. Makes as much sense as anything.
Yeah, keep it simple. And maybe there's quirks of the translation thing that they might be trying to be careful with here, and if they're new to this whole interstellar community thing, making things not complicated is perhaps a good idea.
Yeah. So Geordi thinks that he can beam over and just fix up whatever's wrong pretty easily. Worf goes, hey, maybe we shouldn't send our chief engineer bridge officer over to a completely unknown ship. And Riker goes, oh, look, they're cute and harmless.
But, Worf is 100% correct here. If the job is actually really easy, send someone over who maybe needs more time making, more experience making these kinds of simple repairs.
Yeah. And also Data points out that they may just not have overly developed language skills, so maybe you shouldn't take their way of speaking as an indication of their level of ability.
Indeed.
Speaking of language skills, Wesley tries to make small talk with Picard. We find out that he's going to the starbase to replace his mechanical heart, and that is all the backstory we get.
Yes, for the rest of the episode, for sure, right?
No, just for that then. He opens up slowly. He's such a blocked off person. Yeah.
Yes. But, so we've got a mechanical heart for Picard. So really this entire time, maybe the reason he's been so distant and sort of aloof is he knows that he can't get close to anyone because deep down he knows he has no heart.
Yeah. It's like the Tin Man.
Yeah.
This whole thing is just a giant Wizard of Oz reference.
So, wait a moment. Tin Man, I guess we know who the Scarecrow's supposed to be, I guess. But they end up being, smarter than they're, being shown off. So who's lacking courage?
Yeah. I don't know. Maybe Worf's just fronting.
maybe that's why early seasons he was so outwardly aggressive at times. So it's like, trying to put on a front in order to make himself look as courageous as he's supposed to be. But deep down he's not quite gotten that I should be a fearless warrior in actuality quite down yet. Then who's the wizard?
The main Q.
Oh yeah, previous episode. Yeah, it kind of makes sense.
Yeah. So back at the main plot, Geordi's fixing things on the Pakled ship, but as soon as he fixes anything, another thing breaks, so he just has to keep going. Troy comes to the bridge because she is getting some sneaky scheming feelings from these seemingly cute, harmless dudes over there.
Indeed. So I guess it's about time you showed up, Troy, but I guess you also have other things you do on the ship other than sit on the bridge and watch stuff happen. So I guess that is kind of, yeah. We do see her actually counseling people later in the series, but at this point we haven't really seen that at all. Just sort of.
Yes, just sometimes she's not on the bridge for reasons.
Yes. So I guess this is sort of a good building up the realism of how a ship like this might actually work, but with convenient timing to have the plot work.
Yeah,
out.
It's like where was she 10 minutes ago when this would have been helpful?
Yes.
So Geordi finishes up. The Pakleds grab his phaser and shoot him, then turn their shields on and cut off the Enterprise from all communications.
Huh. Oh, how about that? Can you give Geordi back, please? We were being nice to you guys. Come on.
Since we have a cliffhanger over there, we get to jump back to the shuttle where Picard offers Wesley lunch, and they talk about women, commitment. Picard never had time for anything.
At least nothing
Wesley
serious.
asks if he's always been a model officer, and Picard goes, "Oh no, how do you think I lost my heart?" So this is where we get the thing that's fleshed out much later in Tapestry. That as a young officer, he was at a bar with some Nausicaans, who is a name we've just made up at this point.
Yes.
They're looking for a fight. Everyone else steered clear, but he was like, "Oh, I'm going to go confront them." And then he holds his own against two of them until one stabs him in the back and goes straight through his heart. If he hadn't been close to a medical facility, he definitely would have died.
Yes. Because, having a giant blade go right through your heart is going to cause a lot of bleeding very quickly. Your entire, body cavity is going to be full of blood, and it's going to come out both ends, probably from where you were, stabbed and where it came out and that sort of thing. So you're going to be losing a lot of blood very quickly, for starters. Plus, your heart's not longer able to work properly.
Yeah. Well,
so
the immediate problem that you hit there is that your heart's not going to be able to pump correctly. As long as you don't take the sword out, you aren't going to lose a massive amount of blood right that second.
Yes. Though, if the blade's through the heart's still trying to move, so you're still going to get the internal bleeding problem.
Yeah, you are going to get internal bleeding. But that's suffice it to say, if you get stabbed by something, leave it there until someone can deal with it.
Yes. Yeah, unless it's the blade of infect you with everything right now, in which case you're kind of screwed.
Then you're screwed anyway,
Yes.
So that's the story of how I was viscerally stabbed and it turned me into the man I am today. More sandwiches.
Yes. Now, I will point out that at first Wesley kind of was like, yeah, I'm not hungry, sort of stuff there. And I just can't help thinking in that moment, maybe Wesley's smelling these sandwiches and he just finds them totally disgusting, but then he's being very polite. It's like, okay, I guess I'll have some lunch with you or something like that. And so, if you can, having that, after seeing this episode so many times and then just kind of pop in my head like that, it does kind of make this scene read a little bit different. That Wesley's trying to be polite, and then it's like, oh gosh, Picard used to be like a crazy man. Well, I guess that might explain the sandwiches. But this is all in my head here. So anyway.
So back on the Pakleds ship, Geordi's being held at gunpoint. They want weapons. The entire thing is a ruse. The ship was never broken. The Pakleds just wanted to kidnap Geordi so that they could be stronger.
Mm-hmm. Now, first, before they want weapons, they want everything in the Enterprise's computer, which, as we already know, is like the size of a building and has basically everything ever that you would want to put on a computer. So,
yeah. They contact the Enterprise to try to trade Geordi for the entire contents of the Enterprise's computer.
Which might be impossible for their ship to take, actually. You think about it.
Then we're back on the starbase, where Wesley made sure Picard actually goes into the doctor because he promised Pulaski he would. Yeah.
Yeah, which I guess does beg some continuity questions, because that means he knew that he was there for a medical procedure, but anyway.
But maybe not what medical procedure,
True.
And then, of course, despite the fact that this is a routine surgery, something goes wrong. They need a specialist, and the only specialist in the area is Pulaski. And of course, Pulaski is, tied up until they get Geordi back.
Indeed. And I'd also like to point out the hilarity of the surgery device and where it's placed relative to Picard's chest.
Mm-hmm.
It's a little low on his body.
You don't know where they have to put a mechanical heart in there.
True. Yeah, it isn't necessarily going right into back into his chest cavity there. Could be just somewhere near his stomach, or by his pelvic bone. I don't know.
There's a lot of other stuff. There's a lot of empty space in your general chest area.
There's a certain amount of give and pushing of things around you can do as well, and the only thing you really have to worry about is not collapsing your lungs and stuff like that. So yeah, it's still a little weird.
So Geordi decides he's going to contact the Enterprise so that they can help negotiate. Can't give them the computer; it won't work. But they won't be able to get there through their shields because the Pakleds seem to have gotten Romulan shields, as well as Klingon disruptors and stuff from basically everywhere. Their ship is just a hodgepodge of random technology from everybody.
Sort of a cobbled together mess of sorts, and maybe that's why they weren't able to detect it before. It's like, oh yeah, this seems like it's everything just kind of on the blink, but it's because nothing actually is meant to be compatible with each other.
Yeah. So Riker decides there's nothing to do. Too bad. They have to leave Geordi there, but he is an expert in photon torpedoes. Data will miss arming the torpedoes and working with the hydrogen collectors together. Yep. And Worf is sad that he never reached the 24th level of awareness. Oh well, goodbye forever.
Well, I guess I'll never get there, and my enlightenment as warrior is at an end. Bye, Worf.
So now Geordi, under threat of death because the Enterprise is going to kill them all, sets about making a torpedo for the Pakleds so they can be strong and have weapons.
The Pakleds is like, oh, sweet. He's like joining our side because apparently his people are betraying him. So
yeah,
that's neat.
So Riker orders them to force through their communications. They're going to blow up the Pakleds. LaForge is upset. It's like, oh no, I'm going to die. Wait for him to set up something before they do anything, though. He's going to do a super secret weapon thing.
Yeah. I'll get things fired up, and you'll be able to you defend yourselves, guys, and you'll be armed to the teeth. But
when Riker finishes counting down from 24, he's going to fire off the red cloud.
Mm-hmm.
The Forge finishes, but it's too late, and the Enterprise uses their crimson force field and disarms the entire ship.
Oh no! Sorry, guys, I did all I can. We're now helpless, and we're all gonna die. It's been nice knowing you.
Then the Pakleds immediately surrender, and they get Geordi and run off to the SAR base, because they just vented harmless gas, and LaForge sold it.
Yes. So the Pakleds are still they might be being nefarious here, but they're still new to this whole intergalactic community thing, and the sorts of nonsense the Federation pulls off when they're trying to be deceptive. So so it's like, yeah, this is something a little weird. We've never seen a Federation ship do this before. This seems bad.
So Picard wakes up to see Pulaski. He's very upset because this was the entire point of him leaving.
Mm-hmm.
Was her not poking around in his innards.
Picard, guess what? Oh no, you're here. You found it, didn't you? Yeah, I found the secret candy inside.
So Picard's very worried about his image as captain because now the crew knows that he's fallible, but he gets a round of applause when he comes back to the bridge. He's stereotypically grumpy about it. Yeah. He says, no, I did not have a near-death experience. Everyone forget about it. The important thing is Wesley passed his exams, so we still have an annoying teenager on board. Let's go!
Yes. Yeah, that's what's important to learn here, guys. And also, thanks for coming over. Anyway.
And that's it. That's the whole thing.
Yes.
We get some backstory about Picard and introduce the race of people that they will later decide are too stupid to live.
Yes. Some pretty good stuff here, actually, and independent of what happens later, of course, and an interesting antagonist, really.
Yeah, it's fun. The fact that they may be smarter than they look, and then immediately turn around and go, not really, I guess.
Yeah. Well, I guess in terms of how they're sort of reinterpreted by in lower decks, it could very easily be justified that this sort of a trickery sort of behavior just gets taken to such an extreme by them because it keeps working like 8 times out of 10, so we'll just keep leading into it, and oh no, this actually got really stupid. Whoops.
Yeah, culturally they just did it too much.
Yes. They've learned something that is highly effective and didn't know when to stop. Whoops.
They do kind of heavily imply that this particularly dumb ruse wouldn't have worked if they were smarter, but it's also just because they aren't familiar with what a Federation starship can and cannot do.
Mm-hmm.
So they saw a visual effect, all of their power turned off, and the guy who should know what's going on told them that something happened.
Yes. And, given the Pakleds, are basically doing what the Borg will do later by assimilating technology into their ship there, they might not necessarily be experts about, what things are vulnerable to what. Mm-hmm. So there's a bit of a, you're kind of still new to a lot of this and inexperienced. And so it's not, super much of a surprise that they might be caught off guard like that.
So basically, what this episode is doing is, it's doing comedy by leaning into some unfortunate colonialist tropes that we now need to disentangle because it's, the only thing that would let us talk about this in any kind of meaningful way.
You mean that the colonialist powers going out into new areas to explore, find folks that they are unable to communicate, and thus decide that the reason they're unable to communicate the way that they prefer to be communicated with, that means that these people they've just met who have their own lives and culture and are able to handle their own lives just fine are actually ignorant or stupid or slow or whatever word you want to sort of toss into here to basically describe someone as not sufficiently intelligent, and thus it is a-okay to dominate them.
Yeah, we've got all kinds of things in this is still something that we use this is still used as like a comedy trope a lot, and it's something that we just haven't examined. It's been used so often. But it was a full-on justification for, colonialism and slavery back in the day, that these people who have never encountered your culture before do not understand your culture and are therefore stupid because you understand your culture.
So it leads to a series of bad motivations in terms of how they end up interacting with each other.
Though, interestingly, some of that was, even at the time, was just cultural propaganda. that was being used to justify various political machinations, like Cortez coming to the Americas was just this little power grabby dude who actually was a sort of like low to mid-level military guy. Like, I don't think he was ever fully in the military, but the way that they did stuff back then, he was like mid-level administrative most of his life. Got the chance to run this expedition to the New World, and then used spreading religion as an excuse to do a bunch of shit that he like actually wasn't legally justified in doing according to Spanish law.
It's like, yeah, I've spread Christianity to everyone who's still alive.
Yeah, well, any of that, like, I attacked them because they made fun of the Bible. Yeah, that's what they did.
Totally, these people that have never encountered the Bible before and don't know what the hell you're talking about totally made fun of the Bible because I said so. So, you know, trust me.
Yeah, all these silly stories. There's a very silly, like, almost certainly untrue story about Cortez's men, like, meeting the emperor of the Incan Empire and them saying, like, our holy book says stuff, and then they grab it, it's like, I don't hear anything.
Yeah, that's nonsense.
Yeah. But it's that kind of level of, like, we're justifying how backward and stupid these people are because they don't do things in exactly the same cultural way that we do.
Mm-hmm.
And that makes them dumb. In fact, a very interesting thing that I just learned is one of the many things that colonialist powers said they were superior for doing and other cultures not doing it just proved how backward they were, was strict binary gender separation.
All that nonsense.
Yeah, colonialist powers, like especially the English, invented this notion of men and women being completely different animals, essentially, that had to do different things, and didn't just say this is a matter of our own cultural evolution, but essentially a matter of your own superior biological evolution, because the sexes would start to diverge the more and more advanced a civilization became. So the fact that men and women were doing the same things.
This enforced specialization.
So, like, the fact that men and women in these other countries weren't as, you know, separate as they were in Europe was just a demonstration of how backward thinking they were.
Dang it, England. Why'd you have to go do this kind of crap?
Yeah. So anyway, the fact that they can't do that, and then always, of course, we've always had this, like, American stereotype of a dumb immigrant because, you know, they don't speak English as well as other people do yet, and so are stupid because they can't understand English. And, you know, English is so easy, babies can learn it, right? You know.
It's not how languages work, really, because, you know, when you're a baby, it's easy to learn any language if you're exposed to it. And, you know, that's just kind of how brains work. And when you stop being a baby, that kind of, you know, slows down that whole process. And, you know, you can still pick things up by, you know, exposure. It's just going to take a lot more time and effort on your part. So, you know.
And they also do a particular thing through a lot of this series. It's a very common science fiction trope, in fact, that gets repeated wholesale in Star Trek over and over and over, which is another one of these just you know, repeated colonialist indicators of a species being unworthy of your consideration, which is the Pakleds are described essentially as a scavenger culture, where they're just grabbing other people's technology and using it instead of having their own technology, which would, of course, be an infinitely superior way to go about things.
There's nothing wrong with being a scavenger, though, is the thing.
Well, it's like that. Like, why do you need someone? Like, you brought a wheel to this place. They, you know, for whatever reason, didn't have it as a thing to put on carts before. Then they started putting it on carts because they don't have to reinvent the literal wheel.
Mm-hmm. But
or
you
they
have
didn't
to
have
invent
it,
your own
and
wheel.
we often also have that as like a, because people use different technology, because everywhere is different and different technologies apply differently in different places. we use that as a measure of how backward a civilization is. Like, the fact that they came to the Americas and people weren't using large, heavy draft animals and didn't have, like, you know, wheeled carts. We're like, oh, these people are so dumb they can't even invent roads. But they had massive systems of roads and inner city communication. Just a lot of it was built on, you know, mountains and wetlands where road systems that accommodate heavy carts are not particularly useful.
Yes. And, you know, there's also the situations where it's like, yeah, what you're actually trading isn't, you know, you're not needing to move it in bulk, or, you know, because, you know, you have self-sustained communities, or you have situations where, you know, the terrain is, as you say, you know, that you can have, like, you know, some mountains here, and it's like, okay, so if you're going to have carts here, basically anytime you're not in a city, it's going to be rolling downhill somewhere, and that's just more annoying, so might as well just carry by hand.
Yeah, and we still don't have road systems that go through parts of Central and South America because the jungles are just too inaccessible.
It's not good terrain for this sort of stuff here, and you know, that's part of the reason that there's like a national park in Panama that you know, is at the border with Colombia, that is kind of in the way of any roads going from North to South America there.
Yeah.
It's like, yeah, it's just too
much
pain in the ass to do
terrain.
anything here. So just make it a nice park here, and just kind of leave it be in nature. So yeah.
And there was just this story I was being told about this anecdote from, you know, that story of how Western settlers came to the Americas and then just found this amazing, you know, bounty of available food and resources and yada yada. And isn't it great that we, the blessed Europeans, came here and there's just like natural orchards and foods growing everywhere, etc., etc. God has truly blessed us, and the native people don't even know what to do with all of this. Isn't it great we're here? And basically they've just gone to other people's orchards and farms.
Yep.
But because they handled their agriculture slightly differently than Europeans handled their agriculture, they went, well, of course, all of these fruit trees growing here is just God's natural plan.
Yeah, because there's not a local lord here to manage things, or a wealthy trader folk that have purchased lands centuries ago from the feudal nobility to kick off their orchard, or other sort of land baron sort of character here to tell you to get lost because this orchard kind of belongs to this entire community that's just right over there, and they're like, what are you doing, guys? Come on.
The entire nationalistic myth, especially around later westward expansion in the Americas, of this being like a blessed land full of abundant natural resources untouched by human hands, is the equivalent of someone going to Europe, finding a farm, and being like, look at all of this corn just growing here in a big field. Isn't it amazing what God can do to provide us with food in this abundance?
Wow, there's all these cattle all penned in here, and isn't that just amazing that God has done this, that, for us, because obviously the locals are not...
grew up here, and kept all these very docile animals around for us to eat.
Yeah, that's just amazing. Oh, look, we got this whole bunch of vines that are just all in nice little rows here. Clearly God has decided to lay out the makings and materials we need to make lots of wine here. So that's kind of cool.
And of course, people would never do that because no person would be dumb enough to create a monoculture farm. Right? That would be really stupid.
So yeah, it's all a little ridiculous about what was being sold about the Americas and other parts of the world. A bit later on, that it's just sort of like, this entire thing was built on a lie in order to justify taking it and selling it back home.
So this whole thing plays off of, this whole episode is playing off of these unexamined colonialist tropes, and then because of the inherent limitations of this kind of episodic storytelling, they need to try to both say, oh no, we assumed they were dumb, and actually they weren't, because, you know, they turned it around on us.
Mm-hmm.
Isn't that amazing? We like thought these people were really stupid because of the way they talk, and then they just tricked us and kidnapped one of our guys. But then because they have to wrap it up in about 20 minutes so that they can deal with the other side plot,
mm-hmm.
they have to just immediately trick them back in a way that is infinitely dumber than the way they were tricked originally.
Yes, which is, you know, not really a good way to go forward, honestly. You know, I tried to sort of, you know, round up, you know, provide a explanation for why it's plausible, but in terms of story writing, yeah, it's actually kind of crap.
Yeah,
I
it
guess...
makes sense in you've never seen this piece of technology before, and you'll be inclined to believe whatever someone who should know how it works will tell you, but it still is presented as these people who seemed stupid are actually really stupid.
Mm-hmm. I think I would have actually preferred that, you know, once the Enterprise crew is like, wait, maybe these guys are, you know, not as they seem, you know, and our assumptions about their ability level is completely wrong. We need to, like, figure out some way that, you know, to basically outthink them, and you know, because we can't, you know, assume we know anything about their levels of you know, intelligence here. So you know, let's come up with like a tech plan or something like that. I know, you know, later on I might start complaining about how often that happens, but this would actually be a very good moment to have something like that where, all right, well, they got a lot of technology that, you know, is very much cobbled together. Can we exploit that? You know, maybe you know, there's some fundamental incompatibilities in terms of how Romulans and Klingons and whoever designs things, that, you know, if they are hit with the right beam or waves, it can cause some weird effect. So, you know, something that we could maybe exploit. Maybe not make it a simple, you know, sunlit or shields drop sort of thing, but, you know, you start causing their systems to start interacting in funky ways so that, you know, the ship starts spinning around in circles or something like that.
Yeah,
or,
you could have been like, oh, we know this technology, so we can, like, use it against them. We've encountered Romulans before.
Still don't know much about them on a lot of things, but we have got enough scans in order to pull this trick off. Push the button. And so you can very much have a thing where, you know, the Pakleds are now start trying to work the problem of, oh no, our stuff's not working together. And Geordi's like, I am not an expert on your systems. Sorry. I was going to give you some Federation technology here. But, you know, in terms of figuring all this stuff out, I can do the basics. But, well, sorry, I can't help with anything else. But maybe if I had my full team accessible to me, I might be able to help. So if you let me get back, I'm still willing to work with you guys. And then maybe they'll like, well, okay, sorry, we screwed up, but we really need your help, guys. And so you turn it from a fake emergency into a real emergency for them. And, you know, you get Geordi back and you like stop your whatever your tech business is. And it's like, no, sorry, we're this, you know, you shouldn't be trying to put this stuff together here and stop tricking people. We're now going to warn everybody about you. Bye.
They could have also definitely tried a couple of their solutions first. They would have needed to engage with, like, more time on the Pakled storyline.
Yeah.
But you could try a couple of their, oh, we're just going to trick them because they're stupid storylines.
Mm-hmm. And it just doesn't work.
It doesn't work because they're actually smarter than you're assuming they are.
You know, when they start trying to do the... you know, a leading conversation with Geordi, the Pakleds are like, come on, guys. We know you're conveying, you know, messages to each other, and we're not going to stand for this, end communications before you can finish whatever it is you're doing.
Yeah. So there's ways that they could have engaged with it in a useful way. And you're right. The fact that they have all the scavenged technology, they could go like, oh, well, we can do whatever made up thing, because if we do this thing to overload the Romulan part of the ship, it will do something to the Klingon part of the ship.
Maybe not going to be even nearing to bring down their shields, but it will start affecting and causing these waves in their systems, and et cetera. And and then so sort of trying to make use of things that the Pakleds, in their desire, their lust for new toys, haven't really thought through here. Mm-hmm. Make use of a weakness that is not being abused by them to make themselves look vulnerable, aka one that's actually a real weakness.
Mm-hmm. So I feel like we get this whole you hit a big problem with things that are supposed to be like funny comedy episodes, because mm-hmm. those are the ones that they usually haven't examined the writing on particularly.
Yes. It's funny because it's funny.
Yeah, this is a funny trope, and we used this funny trope that people have used before, and then we just didn't really think about it, because it's just a funny trope. It's just comedy. It's just a joke, guy. Can't you take a joke?
Yeah, and you can't critique a joke because it's just funny. That's not how humor works, though. But it does. Trust me. Yeah. There's some episodes of DS9 I'm really not looking forward to right now.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Anyway, back to this episode. Is there anything else more you want to touch on in terms of the Pakleds and colonialism and all that?
I mean, that was it. That's just the unexamined tropes of the Pakleds.
Well, how about artificial hearts?
Oh yeah, we're sort of doing that. They just did something with pigs, I know.
I guess artificial transplants and things like that, are generally kind of a new thing when you think about it, in terms of things that we do medically. I should have tracked down a good timeline of first we transplanted this bit and that bit or something like that. But a lot of it kind of comes down to also a lot of our modern medical technology and techniques is also relatively new. Go back a century and, I'd probably be dead 5 times over.
Yeah.
It's there's, things that are simple that we are able to do now that are perhaps only decades old. I
just found the first successful heart transplant was performed in 1967.
Yeah, exactly.
And so the entire idea of transplanting a heart was 20 years old when this episode was made.
Mm-hmm. And we're going, and it's the future, so we're going to have a fully automated, artificial heart that will be able to be, make the need for a heart donor, moot. That's if it had just been 20 years earlier, then the sci-fi option would have been a heart transplant of a human heart to a human heart.
Yeah.
So
I mean, in fact, let's see, just doing additional research while you're explaining, the first artificial heart transplant was in 1982, which would have been about 7 years before this episode was made.
And there is still complications with artificial hearts and that, but a lot of things like pacemakers are also relatively new technology. It's so you could have the full heart surgery, or you could have this thing that will basically help your heart keep going even though it has structural damage from a heart attack or something else. And we'll just sort of install this bit of technology in, and just every once in a while I have to recharge it and we're good to go. And that's kind of cool. And going back a century, it's this is stuff well beyond what they would even possibly be able to dream of. And it's just so wacky when I think about it, that it's just we've come so far in medical technology that it's, it's like people talk about. It's like, yes, at this point there was no, automobiles, but it's like, well, there's still trains back in the 1800s. Come on, there's still mechanical vehicles that can go fast, that can take you places. So, but back in the 1800s, it's like, here, have some alcohol, and I'll try not to give you an infection to, work on your teeth here. And anything else, well, we'll just probably chop off the limb.
Yeah, medical technology has been increasing at a ridiculous rate in the last few years, which is good.
Yeah, and it's I guess it gives me hope for humanity and all that we'll be able to live good, healthy lives in the long run. Despite ourselves, we'll be living longer, stronger, bigger, faster, more lives as we go forward. And the thing, though, we have to make sure we're making good use of them all the same, too. So, take care of yourselves, guys. But, for the things that we're not able to do, get sorted out on our own, there's hope for all of us. And that's kind of nice. It makes you feel good, Gapwin.
Yeah, it's nice that somebody's working on this. Whether you can afford it, that's another capitalist nightmare. Yeah.
Yes. I guess the secret option we have to go with then is to get ourselves a Samaritan Snare situation where we pretend that we're helpless in a spaceship somewhere, perhaps crash landed near a hospital, and like, yes, we need help to make our hearts go.
And we're gonna kidnap a doctor. And...
Yes, and then fly off. Because that's totally how it's going to work. Anyway.
Makes sense.
But, I just wanted to sort of, I guess, circle around that, because we're fairly gloom and doom about a lot of stuff here. But, sometimes there is cool stuff going on in our world that is actually really nice that it's happening. I'm not a medical researcher, but I do have run into folks, in that sort of genre fields there. And there's some, kind of fantastic stuff. Like when I was in grad school, they're like, okay, so in terms of detecting breast cancer, we got some kind of okay technology and a lot of guesswork. And, it's like, all right, so now that there's a lot more better imaging thanks to some of the stuff I was encountering in terms of people's research then, it's like, yeah, so we got, the old devices to sort of scan things, plus new devices that can help give us another sort of, take on what's actually going on, and put these together, and it can actually make good, estimates about what's actually dangerous, what's not actually dangerous, and, be able to save lives. And that's really kind of cool. And it's like stuff that I have kind of been quietly watching in the background in terms of developments here. And yeah, I just find it really neat. So
it's also fun
I'm gushing.
We're so used to some of this stuff, like the new technology or something pops up out of nowhere. So it's good to bring the historical context in. It's like, when they wrote this in the 80s, this was like 5 years old. So this was super science, like cutting edge sci-fi, like, oh my god, we can make robot organs.
There is still so much more to do, but it is important to not forget how much we've as a civilization, a world, how much we've accomplished. Like the COVID vaccine 10 years earlier, how we got it sorted out was science fiction. But they put in the background research to be in a good position to have the right kind of RNA sort of vaccine research already done. By the time when we really, really, really needed it, we were able to sort of okay, so there's still some things we need to figure out here, but if we get on this right now, we can actually save a lot of lives. And, we managed to do that. Sure, COVID's still a thing, and it's still, an ongoing threat, and it's still, killing people, but it could have been a lot worse without that. And that's really nice.
Yeah, and now I'm going to go get my COVID vaccine with my flu shot. Yeah.
Yes. And keep up on your shots, everybody, and you'll live longer. So hooray!
It's okay. We got to be optimistic, but also diseases.
Yes, diseases everywhere. Yeah. So are you going to be using a light detection method to scan your soft tissues, Gepwin? While you're getting your vaccines?
Not until those stop popping up so many false positives that they're basically not worthwhile.
Yeah. So, be careful with that.
I think it's interesting that a lot of modern medical research is maybe we should stop looking for this kind of cancer because we find 500 instances of it not actually being threatening and putting people through unnecessary surgeries.
Yeah, let's be modest and think through our decisions.
Anyway, that's a whole rabbit hole that I'm sure we'll get to in some other episodes too.
Yes. There are many more episodes of Star Trek to explore, and science fiction shows beyond even that.
For now, we're back to the Galaxy's favorite game show.
Woo! Hey everybody, welcome back to the Galaxy's favorite game show. Our various contestants are, racking up lots of points here. Some of them are speaking a little weirdly, but that's a-okay. So, so we got some prizes to hand out here. So let's start with the first prize, the Oblivious Coworker prize, which goes to the Pakleds for not picking up on those coded messages Geordi was hearing and picking up from the Enterprise coup. What do they win, Gepwin?
They win all the secret stuff they obviously stole from the Enterprise so that they could get to the massively overpowered technology that they have later, because, they aren't that dumb.
Mm-hmm.
They were just stealing stuff behind his back. It's like, yeah, you totally tricked us. Definitely. Yep. Oh, no. The red force field. Yeah. Damn.
It's like, oh, yes. When Riker forces a communication link with the Pakleds, like, well, you're forcing it now, so we can maybe piggyback on that signal and just, start downloading your entire computer when you're not looking. And, oh no, you tricked us. Ooh, don't hurt us. Okay, you're leaving. Good. Excellent. They fell for it. Anyway, the second prize is the Ultimate Showdown prize, which goes to Riker for finally meeting up with his ultimate adversary, I guess. Anyway, what does he win, Gepwin?
Riker wins never being put in command again because he wasn't able to, fully outsmart these guys. Which is probably why they start, sidelining him more and more. It's not because Frakes was directing more often. It's because they're like, Riker, you couldn't even deal with a Pakled.
Are you for real? Come on, Riker. We're gonna put Data in charge for Best of Both Worlds now. See how that goes instead. Anyway, the third prize is, speaking there of Best of Both Worlds, is the Cyborg Picard prize, which goes to Picard, naturally, for getting himself that damned artificial heart that will maybe one day totally kill him. What does he win, Gepwin?
Picard wins some cybernetic bootstraps, because his entire backstory here is, I learned how fragile life is, and that made me the best man and captain and old person conservative rant.
Indeed. So pull up those cyber bootstraps, Picard, and hook them up to your cyber heart, which is apparently in your kidneys, maybe. And you'll get all figured out, I'm sure. Wesley, just stop paying attention to him. You'll find your own way eventually, even though it's really confusing. Anyway, that's all I got for things here today, Gepwin. I'm getting weirdly tongue-twisted, so feel free to take us away.
I do love, as much as I don't like a lot of what they did in Star Trek Picard, I do love that Wesley just becomes a time-traveling stoner.
Yep. Let's just kind of, fix the timeline, yo.
So, thank you, everyone, for joining us at the Galaxy's favorite game show.
Woo!
So, next, we've gone from a weird comedy episode to, can you believe, a weird comedy episode.
Yeah. And in fact, the Samaritan Snare has some stuff going on. Even though I generally like it as an episode, the next one is kind of painful to watch because they're going to do that thing again with look at these Irish people.
Yeah, it's interesting how much we still get away with making fun of the Irish.
And it's just so baffling to me, though. It's like you guys just wandered out of 1840 here. What in terms of how you view the Irish, and now we're this is in space and we're in the future, and there are still Irish people from the 1840s.
And we can talk about get to talk about the history of anti-Irish racism in England. And why we have all of these weird tropes about Irish people.
Yeah. And
also cloning.
Yes, cloning issues. And how this coming episode also links to a bit of abortion perhaps as well. But also the ship that they flew looked like one of the ships from Babylon 5, so that was kind of cool.
Also, I get to have an interesting time with episodes like this because my family history is both Scottish and Irish. So do I get offended for my Irish heritage, or do I laugh along with my Scottish heritage?
I'm going to leave that up to you. I do know that there's a little bit of Scottish heritage for myself, probably some Irish as well, but plenty of English. So you
are the problem.
Yeah, so I'll just be the problem then. Golly. There's also some Scandinavian, some Swiss, some French, I think, some Germans, and yeah. I'm kind of a mutt like that, but yeah, I'm also very white, so it makes sense. So,
but yep, that's what we get to next time. So we get to discuss weird old stuff that is such old kinds of racism we can't even realistically consider it racism anymore.
No, it's gone from this is really terrible, but there's people that are going to go fully into it because they hate the Irish, to this is terrible just because it's awful, to this is terrible because it's bad comedy.
Though, we will be able to say, comparing the historical fallout from these things and looking at how you can now use them in modern day comedy tropes and storytelling is very illuminating to how we haven't actually fixed anything.
Mm-hmm.
So that'll be fun. We can compare and contrast historical genocides. Yep,
that sounds like a barrel of monkeys, I think.
It sounds exactly like the thing we do every other episode, honestly. Yeah. It's either that or talk about abortion again.
Yes. We got we keep falling into 3 or 4 discussion topics, and that's why I wanted to do a good news one today, because we're going to be right back at it again.
Yeah.
Thank you, season 2.
Next time we'll tell you how a comedy episode is bad, actually.
Next time on Watchers of Tomorrow, forced breeding. You have been listening to Watchers of Tomorrow, a podcast on science fiction media. Find and follow Watchers of Tomorrow on Podbean, YouTube, Spotify, iTunes, Google Play, Stitcher, Pocket Cast, Spreader, Digital Podcast, and perhaps many more to come. If you enjoy our podcast, make sure to subscribe for more. And where possible, make sure to rate your experience or leave us a review. You may find Gepwin on youtube.com/Gepwin and Twitter @Gepwin. You may find me, Dr. Isix, on youtube.com/Dr. Isix and Twitter @IsixLP. Music is Waveform and Mori's Principle, both by DRKRN. You can also check out the Watchers of Tomorrow Discord channel. Make sure to share the experience with your friends, family, enemies, and alien overlords. If you feel you are suffering from transporter syndrome, please be aware that the next time you step off the transporter, that you, that is now, no longer exists.